rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today, calling in from Portland, Oregon, is Stephana Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So,
Sure.
what does Stephana do up there in Portland, Oregon?
So the biggest thing, my mission really is to help small business owners lead a business as well as a life that they love. And how I do that is facilitate. I really am a facilitator and I like to call it radical positive change. And that focus really is about aligning financials and physical. Financial and physical to me go hand in hand. If your finances are not doing well, I'll look at your physical and I can see there's something out. If the physical's not doing well, your financial's probably not doing well. So I really focus on the small business owner and getting those two in alignment, aligning their goals, aligning their vision so that they're moving forward progress. And that's kind of my thing.
You know, that is so much needed, and I know now with this whole messed up world with the COVID stuff going on, right? I think a lot of people are not getting that exercise and that movement that they need because they're kind of like isolated and kind of like stuck in their homes. And of course, you know, I would say probably 90%, 98%, whatever, a big portion of the population does not have any kind of equipment at home. And if you're used to going to the gym or used to going out there taking walks, a lot of that has kind of been kind of squelched, shall we say. So, and I see you're on one of these bouncy balls, and I'm a fan of all of that because I really feel that, you know, staying in condition is really good, not only for the financial aspect of things, but also for your physical and your mental, you know, states as well. So you want to capitalize on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that folks have, you know, we go through these cycles. 100 years ago, we did not have gyms. We didn't need gyms because we were out doing things. We were moving our body in every way that you could possibly think of at every age, right? There wasn't an age limit. You would see the span of it. My grandmother, when I'd go visit her, she was out getting the chickens. She was squatting at 90 years old, picking up roots from the, you know, and we don't have that built in anymore, which is really a shame because I think that it's vital for the human body to be out in nature, to be moving in natural ways. Squatting is the number one thing that humans need to be able to do, and we have eliminated that from the way our toilets are made, the way our chairs are made, the way our dining room tables are made. And we can ourselves adjust that. You know, there's simple things that you can do. I'm raising my kids in that way so that they can know how to squat and they're not seated in a position 90% of their day. So there are really simple things that I like to teach people. And I think that going to a gym, you know, I'm not against gyms. There's definitely a purpose for them. But now, definitely with the restrictions we have in place for the coronavirus, you're not going to be going into a gym so there's another excuse. But it shouldn't be an excuse. It should be that, look, this body is my home while I'm here. I want it to function for me. It houses my brain, and I want my brain to be feeling well. So nutrition is a huge component of that. And it's very simple. I think we've complicated things. I think there's a whole machinery that's in place that complicates things, making us from the time we're born be wacko about diets and this. I mean, think about majority of the stuff that we have today was not here 100 years ago. And that's what we have to start realizing, is that progress for the sake of progress isn't necessarily progress. So we want to look at that and we want to really hone in. And that's why I'm really focused with my clients on their values. And I teach this, I speak about this, is that if you don't know what your own values are, I can tell you someone's going to market or sell to you something that they value. And it may not be aligned with what's truly good for you. And that's going to be the recipe for you losing your own innate power, your own innate goodness, and what makes you truly thrive.
I think that's key what you just said and how you phrase that. That someone will sell you something that is value to them in what they do and whatever, but not necessarily is what keeps you, like you say, focus on what you're doing in your pathway, right? Because it's a bright, shiny object, and we all kind of get, pulled in that direction. And it sounds good, it sounds appetizing, and okay, so you jump on the bandwagon and go with it, and then somewhere down the line you're saying, wait a minute, I kind of lost my focus in the direction I was going, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and like you say, so that's really important to really know and understand where you are and what your focus is and what your goal is. What is that ultimate outcome that you want? And now let's get the steps of the how, and not get off that course. And I have found myself doing that more than once myself. It's like, okay, yeah, I think I can put that in, I can fix it, and I can do this, and I can do that. And then after you go through all of that and you spend all this money, you're like, well, that didn't work out so good. Now what, right? So to be able to
Experience, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes it can get costly. So I really think that is important, and it's relevant to know where your mainstay focus is and really start to incorporate the how, the correct how, and where that goes, and how you can have someone direct you, say, this is all great information, this is all fantastic for certain businesses and for certain directions, but you got to focus. And sometimes you need someone to just bring you back into that and say, your focus is this ultimate result. If you jump here, it's going to take you off course. So let's see what we can do to find something that's relevant, similar maybe, but relevant, that's going to keep you focused on your course. And if I'm hearing you correctly, that's what you're saying that you're doing, and you're helping people to stay in their lane, so to speak, with where they're headed.
Yeah, that's definitely a primary value of Powerhouse Leaders. So Powerhouse Leaders is the name of my company. And in that, I named specifically the powerhouse. There's a physical powerhouse. I'm a trainer in Pilates. I've been doing it for 30 plus years. And Joseph Pilates always talked about the powerhouse in your body.
Right.
This is utilizing that and coming from that inner core place can really shift a lot, especially when you have been in the habit of looking for things from the outside in. So we're looking, when we have that in place as a mechanism, you will find that you're not as happy as you could be. You're not as successful. You're looking for other answers, even in relationships and with money. You're always looking for, what are they doing? What's outside of myself? And when you can restore that connection physically as well as mentally, which is something that's interesting, is in neurolinguistic programming. I'm an NLP practitioner, and I utilize that as a tool in my practice. The powerhouse of the mind, right? Our subconscious, there's
Right.
not really unconscious. There's a lot of power beneath that surface there. That's your powerhouse as well. And so when you can get true balance, what I call true pH balance, right? Your powerhouse back in balance, you are absolutely going to thrive. Your relationships are going to flourish. You're going to achieve your goals, and you're going to have that balance financially and physically. I focus on the financial and physical. That encompasses a lot, but it really handles that. And I think that being able to really flip that switch on what's the answer outside of me, to realizing, okay, what's either this specific next thing, what's this trying to teach me?
Right.
What is it what do I need to focus on? And then coming back to my values that I sit down and work with my clients on before I have underlying values that I focus on as a business owner and as working with powerhouse leaders, is that focus is definitely key. And what you focus on is ultimately how you're going to lead, how you're going to show up and lead your life. So we want to definitely know that and clarify that. So it's a part of it for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that because it really is important, and it's more than just the physical. Like you had mentioned, that mindset is key, and that's relevant because that taps right into your self confidence, your self values, your self worth, your integrities, your belief in your system, yourself, trusting yourself, that whole confidence level. There's an arena of things when it comes with that mindset, and I think one of the biggest things is really learning how to trust yourself, right? Because when you trust yourself, then all these other things we just spoke about are easier to start to fill in the blanks. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really key piece. And um, we're taught not to trust, whether it's our feelings, or and then if
Right.
we don't even know what how an emotion is, and we don't realize that it's actually a tool, it's a mechanism. We are not our feelings, right? I go and talk about this a lot, but we're not our bodies, we're not our feelings, we're not our circumstances, we're not our emotions. We have them, and they're absolutely valuable if we use them as such, as tools to enlighten us, to
Right.
let us know, whoa, that doesn't feel right. Oh, I'm starting to feel anxiety, and this is what's going on. It's like, oh yeah, I just need to take a break, take a breath, evaluate what's going on, maybe take a walk, then come back and operate from my natural native powerhouse. And knowing that, understanding that for yourself is huge. The self-awareness piece is profound. We started talking a little bit about how 100 years ago we didn't have the gyms, and because we were out in the world doing out in
Right.
farms and taking, and survival was the number one focus 100 years ago, right? It really was a key focus. How are we going to survive? Our food and all these basics. And so that was our focus. We don't have that same um, in the hierarchy of needs, right? Our shelters there for the most part. The majority of, at least the United States, we've got people that have a roof over their head or have access to a roof over their head. Their basic food is taken care of. The basics are taken care of. So now we have more room and more opportunity to really get into that inner work, that inner guidance. And with our whole digital age, we know our attention is our most valuable commodity now. So I
Right.
ask you, what are you spending your attention on? What are you focusing your attention on? That's what you want to get a hold of, because when you get a hold of that, then you can make the tweaks, the shifts, the profound transformations that you really want. Once you just understand that little piece right there.
When you were mentioning the powerhouse, arena, you were indicating it's coming out of that solar plexus, right? And so when you look at that solar plexus, that's all about that gut feeling, that knowing that you know, but you don't know how you know. So your intuition and your suspecting, right? And so when we pay attention to that,
Yes.
that is kind of key, and it's relevant to say, hey, there's something here that your whole being and all your sensory activity is going on, that something's not quite in alignment, right? And so now it's time to pay attention to that, and I have found, oh my gosh, how many times, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your lifetime as well, that it's like you brush it aside because you didn't want to pay attention. It's like, yeah, my ego consciousness knows better, right? And then all of a sudden it comes back to bite you in the backside, and then you're saying, I coulda, shoulda.
There you go. Yeah. It takes practice. I think that's something definitely that we should all cultivate and practice. It's not that we have to blindly follow that. We need to wisely follow it. We need to wisely gather that information from our emotions, from our gut, from our
Right.
feelings, and balance it with our thoughts, with our data. What's the data say? What's the feeling say? Okay, I like using this analogy of what's the greatest good, what's the highest good and best outcome for the majority involved. And that, I think, is a really good place to lead from. When we get into
Right.
this all for me and none for you mentality, I think that's where we've gotten off the rails, and a really, I'm simplifying it in a way intentionally. But if we look at the grand scheme of things, if we really look at what's going on the planet today in our current situation with COVID and then with the other components that we've got going on with racial injustice, and then you could look at all of these things that are going on right now in our lives in 2020 and realize that it comes from that disconnection from highest good and best outcome for all involved.
Right.
And I think that times are changing. I think that we are waking up, and as we wake up, sometimes shaking things up in this way that we are being really
You really shook up. Yeah.
we're definitely getting a little bit of shaking going on here as a human species, but I think that that's not a bad thing. I think we do need to wake up. I think we do need to recognize and realize what's working, what's not working, and we need to let go of what's not working, and we need to reinforce
Right.
what is working. And I think that as a culture and as communities and companies and as individuals and as a planet, as a human race, we could really turn this around and see the kind of peace and harmony and joy and love and wholeness
Right.
that is so much of who we are as human potential, just as that juxtaposition of the human cruelty and insanity and evil that seems to be rampant. But we have the other side of that as well, and we have it within ourselves. We have both of those. That beautiful story from the elders. The grandfather is talking about the story of the wolves, and the young boy
Oh,
says, "Well,
yes.
grandfather, how do I know which wolf to feed, or which one is going to come out, which is going to come out within me?" And he says, "Which one you feed, right?" So
Right.
what are you feeding every day with your attention? Where are you putting your attention? What are you watching? What are you fostering every single day with your time? Your time is valuable. Your attention is valuable. So ask yourself, how am I spending my time today? Am I feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf? But that's as simple as you can get.
Yeah,
And then,
that is
yeah,
really critical what you're saying there, because like you say, each of us has that part in us. We're in this duality world, and we've already segmented so many things as being good or bad, or positive or negative, or right or wrong, and again, it's an individual thing. And when you look at what's going on, and I agree with you, I think there's a lot of greatness that can come out of this as an individual, really beginning to internalize and check out what's going on within the essence and the spirit of who you are. And it's global. That's just amazing. It just really blows my mind, when you start to see the impact of everything that's going on completely around the world. I would have never thought in my lifetime would I ever even come close to seeing anything like this, as a reality. But it's here. And it's that peace movement, it's that awakening. And it's like you say, which wolf are you going to feed? Right? And you talked about that database of information. It's always changing. So we look at, you talked on emotions. We look at two emotions. We have love, which builds all the joy and the happiness and the great stuff, right? And then you have fear, which is what spirals us down into that abyss. So you have a choice. It's your choice. Which direction do you want to go? You want to go down into the abyss, or you want to go out into ecstasy, right? Again, it's that
well, let's
choosing.
remember that we're pure potential,
Yeah,
and like you said, we're labeling everything good,
right.
bad, fear, etc. but at our pureness, at our wholeness, we're pure energy, and everything is energy. And we have within ourselves. So I'm sure your listeners, if they already have some kind of glimpse, or they wouldn't be here showing up to this, that they already know that you are pure love. That is the highest
Right.
power that there is. And it's not boyfriend, girlfriend love. It's not.
No,
It's
no.
not a humanistic. It's not how we humanize it and make it into relationship love. It is that vibration, that shine, that essence that,
Right.
when you're tapped into that, it is profound. And could you imagine practicing that for 15 minutes a day? 15 minutes a day if we each practice this. There's so many studies on this, straight from science, having nothing to do with woo-woo or quantum or any of it. It's just pure
Right.
science. That if you take and you spend 17 seconds focusing on that shine, on that energy of love, you can boost your metabolism. We have got scientific proof on this. Doing a meditation for 10 minutes, you can shift your blood pressure, you can lower your blood pressure, you can increase the endorphins. So there's so much science on this, and this costs you nothing to do, but to take
Right.
your time to maybe unplug, maybe turn off that episode, or turn off the news, or go and make a little extra time in your day. 15 minutes is profound, and it will change your life. I promise you. If you do nothing else, do that. And then the moment you've done that, do a celebration. So
Right.
you are reinforcing that within your body, in your brain, and it's starting to become something that the endorphins are being rewarded for, that those peptides that we get from the social media, that they've spent billions of dollars to research how we as humans respond to the social media app or
Oh,
the video
so
games,
true.
right? So
Yes.
let's take back our power there and utilize it ourselves, and understand you can produce your own endorphins by getting excited and going into that and owning that. And then whoop, doing that kind of stuff. Every single one of my clients has their own, like, okay, what's your identity? I am Wonder Woman. I am Iron Man. Whatever it is for you, I
Yeah.
am, a strong, powerful, whatever the statement is, and then whooping on that and acknowledging yourself. We don't do that enough. We don't do that enough. So I want you to do that right now, right here with me.
That's right. That is
That, and
so, so
celebrate
true.
this moment. Yeah, celebrate this moment, and
Yeah.
really, it's like, give yourself a fist bump, and yes, we're doing it.
Yeah.
That changes the energy immediately. You want to see someone's beauty come out, give them shine. That's why kindness is so important. The Dalai Lama teaches this, he preaches this, he walks it, he talks this. This is the simple stuff, and it costs us nothing. And that's why it's priceless, of course.
You're right.
That's why we have to shift that, really flip this switch, that we think that we're going to get something from somebody else. We need the next program, the next car, the next house, the next thing. That's
Yeah.
the mistake. But we've
Yeah.
kind of been buying into that, buying into that, buying into that, buying into that for so long, that that's kind of that trap.
Right. It
And
gets
that's,
to be a habit, gets to be your
yeah,
personality
we got to
traits.
come back to the physical. That's why I'm like, you want to feel good? Let's find it from your own physical. And the financial, because financial, look, let's face it, if you are not able to handle your finances, if you don't have the basic needs, and even to the point of thriving, that's a problem, right?
Yes.
Because you're not going to be able to get the good food that you want. You're not going to have a home that's beautiful and clean, and be able to provide for your family, and have tools around you, like a good mattress and a good pillow, and organic, and be able to afford things that we need to have. You should be able to. You deserve it, right? So these are the things that I teach. This is really, it's simple. Anybody could do this. Have I been doing it 30 plus years? Yes. So I have a kind of an inside understanding, especially working with people that are on all walks of life. I've worked with A-list actors, Academy Award-winning actors, directors, producers, all the way to major musicians too. their family members, and then all and the gamut in between. And the same struggles are there. They're there. So don't look outside and think someone else has got it better than you do. They have their own stuff. You own your stuff. You find your stuff.
Right.
Get with you. Get hooked up with you. Reconnect to your powerhouse, and you are going to win. You are going to flourish. I promise you.
And that's part of that whole theme of what this show is all about, is becoming that best you that you can be. And when you really, like you say, take responsibility for your stuff, don't concern yourself about somebody else's stuff, because you're not in their shoes. You're in your shoes. And if each and every one of us makes a difference and a change within who we are from the inside out, and again, that's going back into your true identity. And finding where your path is and where your goal is, and your understanding your assets. And you also tapped on something, where what it is that you're focusing on, as well, and that energy level and stuff. And there is science. Oh my gosh, there's tons of science. You turn YouTube on. What are you watching? What are you watching? Why not turn on a meditation tape and then just listen to it? And you say, I don't know how to meditation. That's voodoo. Try it sometime.
Just go stand next to a tree and get quiet. You don't need anything. You don't need a smartphone. You don't need an app. You don't need an app. I got an app for that. You don't need that to drink water.
Right.
You don't need that to breathe.
Right.
You don't. You need to get present.
And nature is one of the greatest places to go to come back into that balance. You can be as upset as you want to be. You take a little walk in nature, and all of a sudden you feel yourself coming back into alignment, because that's the key to nature. That's why she's here, right? Is to bring that harmony back into you. But if you're not able to get out into it, how can you do that personally? You have nothing to lose and everything to win. So rather than watching that horror story or listening, like you say, to the news and what wolf are you feeding?
I think we've got a really false idea of what the world is. As humans, we really have an interesting concept of ourselves, in that we think that the human world is so important, yet it's a very, very, very small piece of this. It's a very small piece of the universe, and we have enough ego and enough gall to actually think that the aliens look like us. And yet if we look around, look at the mushrooms and look at the, I just think there's so much beauty around us. Every flower, look at the species of flowers, of birds, of bees. And, humans really need to take a lesson from nature. And do that. I think a lot of people do.
Right.
A lot of people do realize that. Some of my favorite books, Secret Lives of Trees, Secret Lives of Nature. There's so much that can be learned, such profound leadership tools as well.
Right.
To really understand how to lead yourself and how to get out of this. We've gone into this idea where how many diseases do we down? 30,000+ diseases on the books now, even more at this point, I'm sure. And then, of course, the toxic chemicals. But let me just stay on this point with the diseases. There's a culture that there's only one disease. And that disease is at the atomic level, at the energy level, there's chaos. It's a word that means at the atomic level, there's chaos. So there's no cancer, there's no diabetes, there's no ADHD, there's no pathology. We're not labeling anything, and it's at the energy level, there's chaos. So right there, that piece right there is humans, for us to have the ego to say, this is what this is, and to label this. Countless diseases and countless labels for this, and pathologizing everything. How egotistical, when we can come down to this point of understanding that everything is energy. And what's really interesting is science even can pinpoint this and take one atom. within that atom, there's an entire universe. And in that atom, and then we have that tested and isolated in one part of the planet, and the scientists show this in this box. And then on the other side of the planet, they've taken and spliced that, and they've got it on the other side of the planet, and there's communication.
Right.
So, there's some beauty to this, and there's much to be learned, and yet there's also much to be observed, and we need to do it from a place of wholeness, and understand that we don't know everything, and we're so fixated on these labels. When we, going back to this, if everything is energy, and if the only disease there is chaos at the atomic level, at that level, could we shift at that moment? And
Right.
I say there's been profound miracles. I've had them within my own life and my own sphere with profound life or death miracles. And I think that's the possibility. That's what we have to look forward to. That's what we can say, especially in times of this enormous situation and stress with COVID. And look, whatever you believe about COVID and all of this, because there's all kinds of things. I've the first gentleman who was labeled he died from COVID and labeled that. I danced with him 8 days before he died, and we were at a dance that I enjoy going to on a monthly basis prior to this restriction placements. And he was at a very significant level as a veteran. He was an older gentleman, had a lot of chaos at the energetic level, right? So you want to clean up at the energetic level for yourself any chaos, and it's not that difficult to do. The first thing you want to do is get quiet.
That is so important what you've just shared. And I agree with you 100%. I'm on that same page as you are. Where the imbalances and, as you put it, chaos begins is at your soul cellular level. And again, you have to look at it from, again, this duality, right? If you can create chaos, you can create peace.
Absolutely.
And when you look at that energy, and when you're spiraling down into the abyss, it takes so much energy and so much time to stay focused in that lower vibration, because our bodies and our minds weren't meant to be in that low level of vibration. So it takes a lot of work, and then you get tired because you're stressed out and all this other stuff. And just like you walk through your day being exhausted, and when you're finding that, ask yourself, am I spiraling into the abyss? Am I fighting in conflict against myself to get out of the abyss, but I don't know how? And it's like you were saying, Stephana, go out there, join and say, yes, happy days, right? Watch a funny movie, laughter is a great medicine. Just put quiet music on, even if you don't believe in it. Try it. You have nothing to lose. All you have now is so much time on your hands. Make that change, make that shift. Because once you can turn that spiral around where you're starting to move up into that higher vibration and the excitement, you start to feel good, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and that chaos begins to shift. And when you, again, the information on the internet is totally endless now. We have that. It's weighing through those different things. But you can put in, what's the science behind the truth when it comes to your thought processing and how the body responds to it? It's all over. Is everything on the internet truth? Of course not. Is everything you read in books truth? Probably not. You have to find that inner truth that's truth for you by a database. And you mentioned that really early on, Stephana, where your database of information is what your belief system and your trust system and all of that starts. Expand what that is. Move that database of information and the old outdated things. Because what was truth, in your growing up years and even into your young adult years, and maybe even yesterday, maybe changed and shifted to a falseness in your belief because you expanded your database of information. Keep an open mind. Everything's possible and everything's probable. Where do you stand in that point? Where do you want to be on your level? Because all you have that you can be in charge of is you. Your physical body, your emotional body, your mental bodies, your spiritual body, your soul cellular levels, all begins with you. And everything that you have mentioned here today goes back right into that. Take responsibility for the self. And when each and every one of us can put that out there and find that inner peace and let the chaos go, how is that going to shift the world? Right? So you can make a difference by making a difference in yourself. Would you agree with that?
No, I think that's vital. I think the place to start is with you. I mean, look at how many times we point fingers at other people,
right.
and we can look at this from our politicians down. The moment you start pointing your finger, look at how many fingers are pointing back at you, right? Really look at that.
Right.
And don't take it as blame or take it on as yourself, or I'm bad and look how bad. It's absolutely not. Look at it as like, wow, I can actually do something about this. And the moment you shift that and you realize that you can do something about
right.
whatever it is, even if it's just changing your belief about it, because that is what you ultimately can do. Maybe you can't change who's in office. Maybe you can't change what they've done with COVID restrictions. Maybe you can't change where you live right now. Maybe you can't change, who you're married to right now. But you can absolutely change your thoughts about that.
That perception.
So
Yes.
your thoughts. I mean, perception is relative, right? Because if we start perceiving something, it's still filtered through our thoughts. Correct. So what's the thought that you keep thinking that's keeping you feeling or believing that this is bad or that this is wrong? What if it were actually great? What if it were amazing that you were in that situation? Look, I was sexually abused as a kid, okay? And I have talked about this. I've gone out on my platform and talked about this. And mainly I talked about it because I didn't deal with it until I was 35 plus years old, and I had my first child, and it was really messing me up because I had turned it inside on me and made it mean that I was disgusting, I was horrible, because those were the words that were used, and that was the energy that was used in violating me. And when that's the case, it's sometimes really difficult to shift out of that. But at this moment, and you wouldn't think, whether having cancer or going through really horrific experiences, my father being killed, or at the moment, you're never going to say, oh yeah, this is great. I'm so glad this happened to me. Instead, you're going to look at whatever's going on, and you're going to perceive it based on your beliefs, based on whatever you've been taught, based on whatever your current ideas are about that. Or you can step out of it and be the observer. So let me just teach you a little tool here. I love this as a way to get exterior and get that bird's eye view, or that I love using my analogy of a pilot. I love flying. And so as a result, when you get up in the air and you're able to see the earth beneath you and all the little tiny things that seem so significant and so huge, insurmountable, they're overwhelming, they become so tiny, and you can really get a better perspective. There's your perspective. But then you realize and can pop out of the meaning that's been made about all of it. So using that as a tool, there's this idea of, and forgive me, I don't really recall who's the source of this, but this idea of get a little triangle idea, right? And there's 3 corners. If you have 3 corners of something, and the first corner, just place the situation or the circumstance right there. Boom. Then on this other second corner over here, that's you and the circumstance. Now in the third corner, you observing the situation. What happens then? Instantly, you are now the observer. And quantum physics tells us that particles are moving. There's waves and particles. And the moment the observer observes, that's when the wave becomes a particle and it flattens. So you have the ability within you to shift every understanding, every perception, just by being that observer, just by stepping outside of the circumstance, the situation, and even stepping outside of your beliefs and perceptions and observing. And that's going to require getting calm, and maybe that's a big concept, but as you practice it, it's a beautiful way in meditation where you observe your thoughts. Oh, that's an interesting thought that just went by. Right? Oh, that's an interesting sensation. We don't have to believe every thought, every perception, every feeling, every sensation. We don't have to believe them. We can take them as data. We can observe them. And we can then choose. I do believe in free will. I know that, what's his name? Sam Harris. I know the neurological, I love listening to these podcasts where they talk about these really heady subjects and there's no free will. And it's like, I don't know. I think absolutely the number one thing we have is free will.
I would agree with you on that one.
Use it.
That's the key. That's the key. How do you use that free will? And again, that's understanding that duality world, right?
Well, you're separating out of that. So you continue to talk about that duality world, but look at that. So in the duality, we've got this yin yang, right? There's the black white, the dark light, the strong weak. The duality is that perpetual that keeps this going, right? That keeps this going. Well, what if there's something outside of all of that? In Qigong, we practice this Wu Qi, where you just be, and we would stand there for hours just being. Could you imagine just being and not doing anything and not having to have anything? It's, for a natural type, I'll label myself a type A personality who has to have things going on. That's a significant shift.
Right.
But when you come into that space, you can really harness the profound gifts that you are as a luminous light being that you are.
And it's all about coming back into that harmony space, right? Because you have your pendulum swinging, right? So now it's understanding, where has your pendulum swung? Bring it back down into that space of harmony and walk in that. And that's walking in your truth, and it's a great place to get. Is it easy to get there? No. Is it simple to get there? Yes.
It's ever evolving.
Yeah. Oh, continuously.
There's no one truth, and then I'm forever there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Evolving. So give yourself a break and celebrate this every tiny little shift.
Yeah.
Celebrate that. Celebrate the moment that you realize, did I do that again? Celebrate that you recognize that, oops.
And that is important, Stephana. That is so important what you said, is that recognition, recognizing where you want to make the changes. and then celebrate when you recognize it. Celebrate when you make those changes, and that's what makes you a better you every single time, that you recognize that, and that's key. But also celebrate, like you said, celebrate the recognition, because it's key, and it's amazing. So, well, we're coming up here, at the end of our show, and there can be so much more information. We would love to get you back on the show and talk more about that science and the interactions of it, because you're speaking the language, that I live in as well, and a lot of the viewers out here. So any of you listening here today, tell us what you really enjoyed about the conversation here with Stephana. Do you want her back? Just say yes, and we want her back. We want her back, right? Because it's been an amazing time. There, see, she's got a ball waiting for us. That's great. That's great. So, Stephana, if people would like to reach out to you, is there a place where they can actually, reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. So powerhouseleaders.com, stephanajohnson.com, either's good. All social media, I'm there as well. I'm always open and willing to communicate. So, yeah.
Great. And comment below. Her name is on here. You can reach her there as well, right? Right. Stephana, thank you again so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It's very fun.
I enjoyed it, and I'm sure our listeners are enjoying it as well. So thank you all for being here. It's time to say, go out there, be that best you can be, because what? Stephana and I are going to be the best we that we can be. Go out there, make it a great day, wherever in the world it is that you are, and we'll see you all on the next show. What?